Alright guys, trying something a bit newer today where I'm basically just talk about a bunch of random stuff as I'm driving to the gym to try and get a little bit more personal, I guess, and make different types of content that gives you a bit of more perspective into who I am as a coach, what I do, and sort of why I do the things that I do and why I think the way that I do. So I had a little think about what I want to talk about today, and I actually had a conversation with a young client of mine, and basically he's trying to figure out what he wants to do. I had a little chat with him. Obviously, I'm not a life coach. I'm a fitness coach. I try to get people lean and strong and whatnot. But from time to time, I have clients who come to me with some issues that they're just not really sure how to get a handle of. And obviously, I'm not an expert in any of this stuff. I can only give advice from what I've experienced myself. And so I think that's sort of the approach I want to take with these videos. It's not me telling you guys what I think you should do. It's really just giving perspective in terms of how I would go about it and how I'd think about that topic specifically. So yeah, this client came up to me and said, I'm not really sure what I want to be doing, or he's not really sure what he wants to do right now, is a better way to put it. He's gone to a few different jobs. I think it was in retail, in hospitality. He's not really sure where he wants to go next. He's basically finished up with the uni, or almost finishing up, and he's not sure if the degree that he got was even what he wanted to do, or where he wants to go next with this degree to begin with. I think this is a really common discussion someone would have with themselves for anyone who wants to do well and anyone who wants to actually pursue a career or pursue something that, in order to make money, but also do something that they enjoy. And I've also run into a lot of people who don't really give this enough thought, because they'll end up, for example, going to a job that they're not very happy about. They'll lock themselves in by, whatever it's, getting married. They'll lock themselves in by buying a house. Whatever it is, making big commitments before they're genuinely happy with the career path that is basically going to fund the lifestyle that they have. Right? Really just fund the other goals outside of career that they have. And yeah, like I said, I see a lot of people who lock themselves into these sort of roles because they can't take that risk of changing careers. They can't take that risk of wanting to change their job out of the blue when they're 28 and they have 2 kids to look after, and they also have a mortgage to pay off. And that's something that I've always been afraid of. Like, I never want to lock myself into the position where I don't know where I'm going to go next, but I've made these big jumps before I'm at least somewhat confident that this is where I'm going to stay, or this is where I can see myself growing and developing as a person in my career. What I told this young client was basically, you will never know for sure if something is for you or not. Like, you won't know until you actually go in there and you have to actually try to make it something for you. You won't know if going into banking is going to be a thing you're going to stick with for the rest of your life. You don't know until you actually give it a year, 2 years plus. The same way, you will never know if you go into real estate, if that's really the thing that you're going to do for the rest of your life. And when I say rest of your life, it doesn't mean that you can't change somewhere down the line. But what I'm saying is, like, you won't know if something is for you until you've really just given it your best shot to see how you actually progress, to see if that industry is actually for you. Because who knows? Like, let's say you go to a certain workplace and you're not happy with the people you're around, and you're not happy with the company culture, and then you decide that all of a sudden it's not for you. But in reality, it was for you, but you just maybe needed to switch companies. But you would have never known that unless you stuck it through. I think my perspective on, like, passion and sort of like pursuing something that you're genuinely passionate about has changed quite a lot over the years. When I was younger, I used to watch a lot of, like, Gary Vee, a lot of motivational speakers and stuff, and they would all talk about, like, pursuing your passion, and doing something that you love, and the whole thing about, like, oh, I should never feel like work and anything like that. But I think as I've gone older, I've come to realize that's not really the belief that I hold when it comes to finding your career. I think there's a lot more to it when it comes to determining where you're going to be staying for the next 5-10 years in your career. I think the first thing is, yes, I think passion is important, and really just and pursuing things that you at least have somewhat of an interest in. But then I think the second most important thing is understanding that whatever you choose, it might not be very fun at the start. It might not be as smooth as you think it will be. It might not be as enjoyable. Because a lot of times when we think we're pursuing a passion, we sort of think about the end destination, like where we will be after putting in the years of work. And so we don't really understand what it feels like to put in those first 2, 3, 4 years of learning how the industry works, learning the ins and outs of being the best you can be in that sort of field or whatever, right? I hope this is all making sense, because I can sort of say it from my perspective, like coaching, the only reason why I really went into coaching is because I didn't know what else to do. Even though I loved fitness and I loved training and I loved helping my friends and whatnot, it was never something that crossed my mind, because it was never something that I never thought I was passionate about it. Like, it never crossed my mind like, oh, I think I'll be good at personal training. I think I'll be good at being a coach. The only reason why I went down this route is because some shit happened, and basically I was at the bank and I made that decision. Like, I've been here for a year now, and I hate every single day that I show up to it. I knew it was a stepping stone towards other things, because whenever I went to the bank, I already knew it was just a way to make money. It wasn't for me to build a career in banking. I just needed time to figure out what I wanted to do. And so it allowed me to, the event that happened basically that led me to a point where I was like, okay, I want to do something else. Then the most logical step was something that I at least enjoyed, right? Which is training. And so how can I make a living from training, right? I'm not going to become an influencer. I'm not going to make money off of my body and be a model and whatnot. So the only thing was like, okay, let me see if I can teach others how to get in shape. And so that was the mentality, that was the sort of step-by-step thought process to get me to becoming an online coach. Now, when I first started, like, it was exciting because of something new. And I think that's for anyone who pursues a new role or pursues a new career. Like I was somewhat excited going into banking. Like, even though it wasn't necessarily what I wanted to do, I was somewhat excited because it was something new. But then it got to a point where, like, when I first started coaching, it got to a point where I realized how little I really knew. Like, it was not so much from a technical knowledge side of stuff, but like setting up the business, taxes, setting up the systems behind how to find clients, how to learn better, how to get better at sales. Like, these were all things that I had to learn from the start. And although it was somewhat enjoyable, right, there were certain points where I was wondering, like, even though I was seeing some success, I was wondering, like, is this really the thing that I'm going to be sticking with for the rest of my life? And every time I thought that, I was wondering, like, how do I even figure out? Like, how do I even decide what is the career that I'm going to do for the rest of my life? Like, I don't even have a criteria. I don't have anything to compare against besides the bank. So how do I know if this is really going to be the thing I'm going to hold on to? And so there were two ways I could have gone about this. The first is I could have been, every single time I got bored of something, I could have just said, no, I'm just going to change. It's not really for me. And have this sort of unrealistic expectation that whatever I pursue, just because I'm passionate about it to a degree, that every single day should be exciting more than the last. When in reality, we all know that doesn't happen. Like anything else we do, there comes a time where there'll be bad days, bad weeks, bad months, where maybe the fire isn't there. Same thing goes with your training, same thing goes with, in diet, whatever it is that you pursue. Like, there's all going to be those periods where you're not really as invested into it as you were when you first started. That motivation, that drive isn't, that excitement to do it isn't there anymore. And so I experienced that myself, where there'll be, like, I've been coaching for 4 years now, 4 years now. I would say 3.5 years now. And even now, I still don't know if this is really where I'm going to be. Like, I don't know if this is what I'm going to do for the next 10 years. Is it even what I want to do? But rather than sort of over dwelling on it and sort of like constantly questioning things, I've just sort of made a decision, like, okay, I'm going to give this my best shot. I'm going to give this my best shot and take it as far as I can, and then see where we go from there. And this was sort of the story that I told this client, because he was basically feeling lost in terms of where he wanted to go next. Like, he was at a point where he was trying to figure out, like, he had to go on job to job. He was trying to figure out what he wanted to really pursue for his full time, and what he wanted to do for the rest of his life, basically. And I've had this conversation with other friends, and family members as well. And it's like, you need to just pick something that you at least have somewhat of an interest in, and you have to see how you go with it. Like, you'll never know until you start. And that's something that I really feel like people never get to experience. Like, they'll do a job, and then because they're not happy, they'll just leave. Or they'll just pick the most random job without even thinking about what they're interested in. And then they'll lock themselves in by making silly spending habits or committing to things that they're not ready for. And like, for me, finding a career that brought me fulfillment and brought me satisfaction was never something that I was genuinely clear about. Like, I never knew what I wanted to do. Like I said, I still don't know to this day. But it doesn't mean that I'm just going to keep playing around with a whole bunch of different things and give up every time something gets a little bit boring or a little bit hard. You have to keep trying until you find that thing that clicks. And it's like almost like a relationship. It's not that you just one day find the dream job that just, that there's never any bad days and never any, rough months and whatnot. You make a decision to make it work. Just like any other relationship, you're never going to find that partner that you never fight with, that you never have issues with, that you never have disagreements with. But that doesn't mean you break up every single time that this happens. You make the decision of who you settle down with. Just like your job, you make the decision of where you settle down, what career path you choose. And then give it enough time, collect enough information in terms of like, okay, do I actually enjoy this? Do I really feel like I can progress here? Is there room for me to grow? Does this meet the sort of criteria that I have for a good job? So basically, going back to the story, I asked him, what do you feel like you are somewhat interested in? You don't have to be in love with it, just at least interested in it. Awesome. That's the thing that you should try and pursue. All right? That's the thing that you should try and pursue. I think the reason why so many people are so afraid to make these sort of decisions and sort of take these sort of risks in a way, because in order to pursue a new career path means potential months and years that could be potentially lost from you earning and progressing forward in your life in terms of that sort of the sort of general timeline that people like to go with, right? Because let's say someone's been in banking for, let's say, 5 years, and then one day they decide, oh, this might not be for me. I don't really want to pursue this anymore. And they want to go into fucking psychology. Random example, right? They want to go into psychology, right? Now all of a sudden they have to go back to uni. They have to go back to studies. They have to go back to doing exams. They have to go through that process again. They have to, do their certifications, do their qualifications and whatever, and then they can start pursuing their career properly. And that could be like a whole 3-4 year gap. And that's what holds a lot of people back from genuinely pivoting at these sort of important points in their life, right? Because there's a time cost, there's an effort cost. Like they've already gone through the works of being in banking, for example. Now they have to go through more effort to be able to go into a new industry. And that's intimidating and that's scary for a lot of people. Like if you ask me right now to quit coaching because I want to go pursue, I want to go pursue real estate, right? It would be scary as fuck. Like it would be something that I would be genuinely scared about. I have no idea how I would feel being in the industry, but I would never know until I do it. And so what I basically told him was like, you need to just pick one thing and you need to just try your best with it. Try your best with it, even if it means that you don't get to buy your house early at 28 or 27, what the fuck it is. Even if you don't get to go on that holiday for another few years. Even if you don't get to do this, you're going to do that. Because for me, my mentality is I would rather sacrifice these years now in figuring out what I genuinely enjoy and what I feel like I can really excel at, rather than being locked down to one spot for the next 10 years and then eventually just hating myself anyway for not taking that decision, not taking that risk when I had the chance to. If you just think about it this way, we're all gonna eventually get married probably. We're all gonna have kids. We're all gonna maybe get a mortgage, right? Have other costs, other investments, other expenses that come up as we get older and more responsibilities get on our plate. The chance of you taking a risk when you're older is very slim. You just don't have that luxury of being able to, switch career paths and not have to care about anything else. You don't have that luxury, right? Because you have other people depending on you. You have expenses that you have to pay. You have all this stuff that goes on that is going to hold you back from really taking a risk. Basically what I was saying is, if you're in a similar situation to my client that I'm just talking about here, and you're not really sure where you want to be, and you're not really sure what you want to do in terms of your career, and you're just feeling a little bit lost, my best advice is just to write down a list of things that you think you might enjoy. And it doesn't matter if it's something that you've never done before. It doesn't matter if it's something that you've never even experienced before, or you've never had any thought of pursuing until now, right? Then filter it out. Weigh out, do the pros, the cons, really look into each industry that you're planning to get into, and just really weigh things out and figure out, sort of break down that list. Because you might come up with 4 or 5 different sort of areas that you want to go into, different career paths, and 3 of them might not be very feasible. And when I say feasible, it might be you just look over everything and it's not actually what you want. The lifestyle isn't really what you want, and whether it's the career potential isn't really what you're looking for. That's completely fine. Now you've actually done your due diligence in crossing off different sorts of roles and different sorts of industries that you thought might be of interest to you, but you've decided not to. And now you've filtered down to at least 2, right? Now just pick one. Just pick one, because it doesn't matter which one you pick. Either way, you're not even really sure which one you like more. You're never gonna know if you like something until you actually do it. And so, do that first, right? And make that decision that you're not gonna quit at this attempt until you know for sure in your heart that it is not for you. And if that requires you to go through your studies, that's what's required. Like I don't think you should be scared to I don't think you should be scared to pivot your direction just because it takes off another 2-3 years of your life in terms of like you being in the professional workspace or you in your professional career. I think if that 2 to 3 years, increases the likelihood of you enjoying the process, of you enjoying your career, of you living a more fulfilling and happier life, that's a cost that's probably worth it in the end. And like you probably don't think, like it probably doesn't feel like that now because it's scary to say like I'm gonna go back to studies, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna change industries. It feels scary to have to go through that whole learning process again and be a new person in this industry. But that's how you felt when you first started this current role, right? That's how we all feel when we first start something that's unknown. And so either way, you have 2 choices. It's very black and white here. You can either stay in this role and at least come to terms with the idea that you might not be very happy because you're already aware that you're not happy now. You're not just gonna magically start loving your job. You're not just gonna magically start enjoying it, right? If you're already 3 years deep and you're not enjoying it, right? You have 2 decisions. You can either pivot and say that I'm gonna make a decision to go into something else that I think I might enjoy. And even if that means that I have to cut back on my spendings, I have to cut back on my expenses to be able to make this work, so be it. Because that means if you actually find something that you enjoy, you're gonna eventually make more money, you're gonna be more fulfilled, and you're gonna enjoy your life and your days a lot more anyway. And so that's a worthwhile investment, and that's a short-term sacrifice for a very long-term yield or benefit, right? That's the first thing. But then the second option is you stay where you are. You stay where you are, and you make it work. We have seen plenty of people in this world do just fine working a job that they don't genuinely enjoy, but for example, the lifestyle is what they enjoy. They enjoy starting work at this time, finishing off work at this time, going home and being able to go play sports, being able to go hit the gym, being able to do other things. To them, the job is good enough for them to stick to. For them, going to work is a way for them to make money and then fund the life that they want. And that's okay. Like you don't have to love your job. You just have to at least try to be good at it, to be able to excel, to be able to progress, right? And so like it comes down to what is important to you. Figuring that out is really important. I think that's a conversation we all need to have with ourselves, and something that I encourage this client to do as well. Like, what's more important? Is it you want to sort of level up and just see this job as a means to go through your adulthood as quickly as possible? And like maybe the idea of loving your job is not very high on the criteria. Maybe it's not very high on the priorities. Maybe there are other priorities, for example, growth potential, company workplace. Maybe those are more important to you. And let's say you find this one spot that you really love, you love your colleagues, and the work is okay. Like you don't love it, but you don't hate it. I think that's like, if you're okay with that, there's nothing wrong with saying that's where you want to be. And I'm sure if you at least enjoy being there and showing up to work, you're gonna eventually level up there anyway. I just don't believe finding your one career in your 20s is gonna happen for a lot of people. I think you have to try a lot of different things. Like I said, I don't know if coaching is going to be the thing for the rest of my life. I don't know where I'm going to be. I don't know if fitness is going to be the thing that I'm going to be staying in. Like, I really don't know. And as much as I want to say, like, it's where I want to stay, I could say that now and that could change in a year. Like, who knows? And like, I feel like that's the same for everyone. Like, you might think where you are now is where you want to be, but who knows where you'll be in 2 years? And like, you have to be level-headed when that time comes, because you don't want to sort of pull the plug too early and be like, oh, I'm just going to quit because I don't feel like it. Like, it's a big decision, right? Because now, like I said, you have to reinvest your time, reinvest your effort into relearning skills, relearning an industry, and and maybe you have other things that you need to account for, like your family, your kids, your mortgage, whatnot. Or maybe you're just gotten really comfortable, and that idea of becoming uncomfortable is something that scares you as well. But it's always going to happen. Like that's the cost. That's the sort of entry fee that you pay towards finding that one thing that you finally click with, and that might take years to do. And so this client is basically, hopefully, he takes on my advice of really sitting down and figuring out. It wasn't like me giving him life. I just said what I would do. Like, I would sit down, I would figure out, okay, what are some things that I at least like, or I think that I'd be interested in, and what are the career paths from here. And then I'll filter that out in terms of doing the pros and the cons until I dial in on 1, 2, or even 3 things, and then close my eyes and make a decision. And you have to have your list of criteria of what you determine to be a fulfilling career. And some people, it could be like I said, some people could be the growth potential. Other people could be the money they can make. Others could be do they the work-life balance. Like, these are all things that you have to sit down and you have to figure out yourself. And if you don't think about these things before you jump into a career, what ends up happening is you end up getting really comfortable. You end up working a job you hate, and you end up capping yourself and your potential because you ended up picking a role that wasn't for you, but you've just sort of settled. You've settled for something. Like, keep in mind, guys, work is such a massive part of our lives. It's something that we're going to eventually do every day almost. Some of us 7 days, others 5 days. I think this is an important discussion to have with yourself, because work is such a big part of our lives. You'll be working for years, and so you at least want to be in a role, be in a career path that you somewhat enjoy, whether you somewhat enjoy showing up to. Because to me, it's just I'd rather life is a bit too short to be waking up every single day and going to a job that you hate for 8 hours, for 9 hours, some of you even longer. Right? It's just not worth it to me. I'd rather just figure it all out in my 20s, so I don't have to take that risk later down the track, and maybe not even be able to. Because basically, the more responsibilities get put into your plate, the more stuff you have to look after, and the more people that depend on you, the more selfish it is for you to make such an abrupt decision to change careers, because you now have other people who are depending on you. So now is the best time. If you're in your 20s trying to figure out everything, now is the best time to have these sort of thoughts and these sort of conversation with yourself. And like I said, just make one decision, roll with it, give it your best shot. Really just actually try to be good, like really try to progress in it, and really collect that data to come to an informed decision of whether or not this is for you or not. And then you can decide where to go from there, whether you stay with it, or whether you whether you hustle it out and you stay there, or you find a new path. All right, guys. I hope you enjoyed that. If you watched this far, hopefully I didn't ramble on too much. But yeah, I'm at the gym now. Drop a comment if you found this helpful. Drop a comment if you have any other different opinions. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one. Thanks, guys.